Hi, good day everyone. My name is Jonathan David Dela Cruz and I will be your teacher for environmental science class. So what we left off after our previous discussion is physical environment. So ngayon, pag-uusapan natin ang physical environment. So first, we will be discussing hydrosphere, atmosphere, and geosphere. These are the spheres of the Earth. Okay? So the Earth is a system. Earth is a complex system of interacting physical, chemical, biological processes and provides a natural laboratory whose experiments have been running since the beginning of time. So um, the Earth, no, madami po nangyayaring reaction o nangyayaring uh, phenomena dito sa ating planeta, and these phenomena are driven by the processes na meron, no? Because of the interactions of different systems of organisms that are living and non-living organisms and other factors. So these are three systems in physics, no? In thermodynamics class natin, meron tayong tinatawag na isolated system, closed system, and open system. Now, the question is, Earth. What kind of system is Earth? The answer is, it's a closed system. It's not an open system kasi kung open system ito, um, the sunlight no will directly enter the planet Earth at masusunog tayo. Kung wala ang ozone layer, sabi nila, according to research, approximately 8 seconds sunog na tayo. So it's not an open system. When it comes to isolated system, ang ibig sabihin naman nito, ibig sabihin, the sunlight cannot pass through. But because of the Earth is a closed system, no, nakakapasok ang heat dito, the sunlight. But then again, this is regulated by the one of the spheres of the Earth, no, because of the ozone layer. And because it's also a closed system, the heat is also stored, is also conserved inside our planet, which helps other organisms which helps all the organisms to live. Kasi pag isolated system, kapag walang nakapasok na sunlight, of course, life cannot exist. Kasi remember, in our previous discussion, that the major source of energy is the sun. And without the sun, the earth, the living organisms in our planet cannot exist. So clear tayo doon, settled tayo na ang earth ay isang closed system. So Earth is a dynamic body with many separate but highly interacting parts or spheres. Earth system science studies Earth as a system composed of numerous parts or subsystems. So Earth is primarily made up of um, a lot of things, no? A lot of systems. So meron tayo diyang air, meron tayong water, meron tayong land, and of course, meron tayong life. Ano ang tawag natin dito sa mga interacting spheres na to? So, yung air, no, we call it the atmosphere, and the earth or the land, we call it the geosphere, and the water, we call it the hydrosphere. If you notice, these spheres are non-living organisms or non-living things or non-living spheres, but they are essential. But these are essential in biosphere. So biosphere is the living interaction of living organisms. No, so as you can see, the atmosphere, geosphere, and hydrosphere are non-living organisms, pero essential sila para sa biosphere or the interaction of life among species. So these are the four spheres that we will be discussing. First is the atmosphere, geosphere, and hydrosphere because these are the physical spheres of physical environment. Okay. The four systems are the geosphere, comprises of solid earth, includes both Earth's surface and various layers of Earth's interior. Atmosphere, gaseous envelope that surrounds the Earth and constitutes the transition between its and the vacuum of space. Hydrosphere includes all water on Earth, including surface waters and groundwater. Biosphere is the life zone of Earth and includes all living organisms and all organic matter that has not yet decompose. So all these four spheres interact to create the Earth, no? And isa-isahin po natin 'yan sa ating discussion ngayong araw na ito. Okay. So as you can see, no, this is the overlapping cycles in an Earth system. It always starts with the solar energy or the energy that we get from the sun. This solar energy enters our planet. Now, bakit may atmosphere tsaka hydrosphere dyan? Because atmosphere regulates the atmosphere is the cloth of the Earth. Ito yung blanket ng planeta natin. It regulates the entrance of the heat. Kinokontrol nito yung pagpasok ng sunlight sa ating planeta. And bakit nandyan yung hydrosphere? Because hydrosphere or water plays a vital role in maintaining a safe temperature of our planet para hindi tayo lahat mag-freeze at paggabi at hindi lahat tayo masunog pag umaga. Okay, so after this, nakikita din natin no, the hydrologic cycle and then weathering erosion, and then it affects the landscape evolution, the rock cycle, melting, heating, melting, crust movement, plate tectonics, and of course the solid earth. Solid earth, the movement of the earth or the system of earth is driven by the solar system and by the internal heat. Of course, we all know in our earth science class that uh, Earth has its own core, no, has its own internal heat. So they also play a vital role for those organisms na hindi naaabot ng solar energy. Halimbawa na lang nito yung mga organisms na nasa ilalim ng tubig na hindi naaabutan ng sunlight. So let's jump right to the first sphere that we are going to talk about, the geosphere. The geosphere. So what is geosphere? So geosphere is the solid earth. This is the land that we step into. This is composed of the continents and the ocean crusts. And of course, it is 94% of Earth's uh, composition is made up of oxygen, silicon, and magnesium. So ito yung major composition ng Earth. Pag tinanong kayo, what are the major compositions of Earth? The answer would be oxygen, silicon, and magnesium. The geosphere is not static. Um, but its surface is a constant state of motion. Constant state of motion. Ibig sabihin po nito, the Earth is not literally changing, no? But because of the internal heat na meron ang planeta natin, no? It causes the movement of the Earth's crust. Mineral resources are mined from the geosphere. Okay. So changes occur on Earth are caused by these. Una, molten rocks, molten rock flows from volcanoes. Of course, volcanoes are there because of your Earth science class, diba? Volcanoes are there because the Earth has to release heat. No, yun yung passageway para mailabas ng Earth yung init na meron sa inner core. And then hurricanes, batter beaches changes the coastlines. Hydrosphere or the water highly affects, and of course air, the atmosphere, highly affects the uh, Earth's surface. Naapektuhan nito yung Earth's surface, yung corrosion ng rocks, yung erosion ng rocks, no? Earthquake shakes the ground. Of course, no, if the Earth releases heat, no, it causes earthquake or the other way around. Nagkakaroon muna ng earthquake before it releases heat. And of course, resulting to volcanic eruption, just like kung ano yung nangyari nung nakaraan. If you remember the Taal volcano eruption last January, and hindi lang siya yung nag-iisang vulkan na pumutok. There are multiple volcanic eruptions that happened under the water, and two more major explosions of other uh, volcanoes along its plate, no, along the plate of the Taal volcano. So they are interconnected. So the interconnectedness of these volcanoes are because no, these are the passageway of the earth para mailabas yung init nito. Earth is a system that consists of air, water, and rock, of course, as we have settled a while ago. All parts interact with each other. So, most of the geosphere is located on Earth's interior. Actually, yung nakikita lang natin, no, na surface ng Earth is just very topical. Sabi nga nila, we've only scratched 2% of the Earth's surface. In fact, it's really, really difficult to dig down to the center of the Earth kasi sobrang init din kasi niya talaga. So the average diameter of Earth is 756 kilometers. So the information that we have concerning the interior of the Earth comes to us from studying seismic waves. So technically, sir, paano yun? Hindi naman natin nahukay yung Earth, no? Hindi natin nahukay yung center of the Earth. Paano natin nalaman yung mga composition ng center of the Earth? Paano natin nalaman yung layers of the Earth? This is because of the use of seismic waves. So seismic waves travel through different materials at different rates. When seismic waves changes direction or speed, it means they have moved through the different layers. If you remember in your physics class, the S waves and the P waves, no, may mga materials na kung saan nagta-travel yung ganitong uri ng wave sa ganitong klase material pero hindi nagta-travel sa specific material na ito. Specific sa mga elements, kaya natin nalalaman kung anong element compositions ng mantle, ng outer core at ng inner core. Scientists divide the Earth into three layers based on their compositions. So una ang crust, no? It's the thinnest layer of the Earth from 5 to 20 kilometers thick. So yun yung tinatapakan natin ngayon, yun yung tinatayuan ng mga bahay natin, ng mga buildings, ng schools, no? So if you dig deeper from 5 to 20 kilometers, that is the crust. And then ang may pinakamakapal and the thickest part will be the mantle. Mantle makes up 64% of Earth's mass. Ang kapal nito ay 2,900 kilometers thick, made of rocks of medium densities. And last is the core. Core has a radius of 340 kilometers and composed of densest elements. The core is actually subdivided into outer core and inner core. Earth can be uh, divided into five based on physical properties. Yung kanina, layers based on composition. These are layers based on composition. Yung pangalawa naman, based on their five layers based on their physical properties. So lithosphere, asthenosphere, mesosphere, also known as the mantle, and the outer core and the inner core. Okay, let's go. Una, ang lithosphere is the outer layer. Of course, it's found in the crust. It contains the crust and the upper part of the mantle and is divided into moving sections called the tectonic plates. So the lithosphere are the ones that moves. Ito yung mga gumagalaw because of the movement of the earth. Next one is the asthenosphere beneath the layer of the lithosphere. So after ng lithosphere, next is the asthenosphere. Asthenosphere is mantle. Okay? The asthenosphere is a plastic solid layer of the earth that the plates move on top of. So, asthenosphere plays a vital role, no, sa movement ng lithosphere since the lithosphere are the solid ones, the uh, the lithosphere are the solid ones, and while the asthenosphere are plastic, so they can actually cause the movement of the uh, lithosphere. So next one is the mesosphere. This is also called as the mantle. Consists of the lower mantle between the asthenosphere and the outer core. The mesosphere contains molten rocks which are called magma. So dito sa mesosphere, makikita natin dito yung magma kung saan molten rocks are formed. So magma are molten rocks. So bakit sila natutunaw? No, because of the heat. Again, once you go to the center of the earth, it is hotter, mas mainit siya. So it causes the melting of the rocks called the magma. The outer core is 220 kilometers thick and made out of nickel and iron. The outer core is mostly liquid. So since outer core is mostly liquid, it affects the mesosphere or the mantle na nagpo-form din ng liquid or molten rocks. The inner core is a solid sphere of iron and nickel and cobalt, which are radioactive. And the temperature of the inner core is thought to be 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Celsius. So, so imagine no, kung gaano kainit yung inner core. So as it goes to the surface of the earth, lalo siyang lumalamig. But as you go deeper, no, lalong umiinit. So it also plays with the principle of pressure, 'di ba? When you go up, the pressure decreases. As when you go down, the pressure increases. And based or by principle, if the pressure increases, so does the temperature. Kaya kapag nag-dive kayo sa tubig, 'di ba? It's when you go down and go down, go deeper and deeper, it actually the pressure actually becomes higher. And at until such time na iinit yung iinit yung surrounding mo because you're entering the uh, you are being closer to the center of the earth. Okay, scientists believe that cobalt is the core decay producing heat. Okay, so the heat from the core produces the energy that makes the magma move, producing earthquakes, volcanoes, and plate movement. So the movement of the Earth's crust, the movement of the lithosphere is caused by, it's a domino effect coming from the inner core. So, because the inner core is so hot, naapektuhan niya yung outer core na liquid form, and then maapektuhan din ito yung mesosphere or the mantle, and then it will definitely affect the asthenosphere and lithosphere, causing the movement, the earthquake, or a volcanic eruption. Or minsan, kahit release lang ng heat from the ground. So here it is, the Earth's layers by composition and by by physical characteristics or mechanical characteristics. So ito siya, ang crust. Crust is completely lithosphere. So crust is a primarily silica plus light metallic elements. The mantle is made up of part of lithosphere and then the asthenosphere and then of course the mesosphere. Okay? And then the core is primarily made up of iron and nickel. Meron kang inner core and outer core. The outer core is the liquid. Itong mesosphere, this is solid pero there are also liquid forms which are the magma. So it's called magma if it is still inside the earth, but it's called lava when it's already pushed outside the surface of the earth. So pag nasa surface na. So what are the interactions? Why is it important to know the interactions in geosphere? Okay, so example, we have here interactions with Earth system components. Atmosphere. Volcanism spews significant amount of gases into the atmosphere. For example, volcanoes inject large amount of sulfur dioxide to the upper atmosphere resulting to global cooling. So what do we mean by this one? So, 'di ba, geosphere interaction with the atmosphere, example yung pagsabog ng bulkan. Pag sumabog ang bulkan, it releases a sulfur dioxide which causes global cooling. Kaya if you notice, after the explosion of the Taal volcano, the wind actually blew cooler at saka mas lumamig din yung atmosphere because of the global cooling. Not only because Taal volcano exploded, but kagaya na nasabi ko kanina, may mga ibang bulkan na sumabog along with Taal volcano. That's why it's called. Apart from, malamig din naman talaga nung January. Okay? Next is, so yun that's an interaction of the geosphere and atmosphere. Next interaction of geosphere and hydrosphere is the formation of many minerals involving incorporation of release of water. Also, water speeds up chemical reaction that produces and destroys minerals and aids in melting of rocks. So, example, if it rains, pag umulan, o kaya naman if may hurricane, no, or it causes landslide, it causes erosion, it causes melting, it causes a melting of rock kung acidic rain man yung meron, no? Corrosion of rocks also. So that's an interaction of hydrosphere and geosphere. Next one is biosphere. Nutrients released from rocks during their breakdown are dissolved in water. Okay? So later, one of our discussions will be showing the biogeochemical cycle na nangyayari sa environment natin kung paano nga ba nagta-travel or nagta-transfer yung nutrients na kailangan ng humans, ng animals, at ng plants in the spheres of the Earth. Okay, so another system interaction, again, volcanic eruption, that's geosphere. Kapag naglabas ito ng ash tsaka ng mga other compounds like sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, it affects the atmosphere and then sending the lava to the forest and then therefore pwedeng taniman. It's the biosphere because you can plant and grow plants there. The question is bakit mas mataba yung lupa ng mga malapit sa volcano or bakit mas maganda magtanim doon? It's because 'di ba kapag sumabog yung volcano and then nag-release ng magma, ng lava or nagkaroon ng ashfall, these are safe with the soil. Okay? These are good for the soil because ito yung mga nutrients na kailangan ng halaman para mabuhay sila in order to survive, especially yung mga plants na kinocultivate natin for consumption like gulay ganun or yung mga even other plants, no? Pero it's not safe for plants yung direct na ashfall. It would burn the plants because it's dangerous for the plants. Pero kapag ang pathway nito ay from the roots, no? Uh, and then it will go to the from the roots and then go to the xylem and phloem of the plant para mag-spread along the body of the plant. It's good for the plant. Okay? So that's the geosphere. Next interaction will be earthquake. So that's geosphere can damage the building, which can kill the people, affects the biosphere, as well as cause fire and causes release of gases into the atmosphere. And then earthquake can also cause tsunami. So that's hydrosphere, which can eventually hit the land and kill both animals and people. So as you can see, this is an interaction of the geosphere again to biosphere, atmosphere, and hydrosphere. So my examples are volcanic eruption and earthquakes. These are natural phenomena that happens, no, but it has to happen kasi kailangan din naman mag-release ng earth ng heat, no? Pero hopefully, pag nangyari sana, walang masyadong taong maapektuhan or other living organisms. So we're done with the geosphere now. Let's go and try to ask the question, ano naman yung hydrosphere? So if geosphere is about the solid rocks, the earth that we are stepping in, what about the hydrosphere? From the word itself, hydro, it's the water system. So hydrosphere contains all the water found on our planet. Water found on the surface of our planet also includes ocean, lakes, rivers, and streams. Even waters found under the surface of the planet is called the water table or the groundwater. Water found in the atmosphere, the water vapor, the clouds, no? Frozen water on our planet includes ice caps and glaciers. So only about 3% of water is fresh and about 70% of water na pwedeng inumin ay frozen doon sa glaciers o sa glacial ice. So let's break that down. No, again, hydrosphere is all bodies of water na meron tayo dito sa Earth. But not only yung mga nasa surface, but also yung mga nasa atmosphere, like the clouds, pati na din yung nasa ilalim ng lupa, like the water table or the also known as the groundwater. Okay? So, nabanggit ko na rin dito. It includes all the bodies of water, oceans, lakes, wetlands, polar ice caps, soil, rock layer beneath the Earth's surface, and even the clouds. 70% of Earth's surface is covered by water, no? So pag tinanong kayo which composition of the Earth is higher, is it a geosphere or hydrosphere? The answer is still geosphere kasi geosphere covers until to the core. Pero ang hydrosphere, no, ang appropriate question is the surface of the Earth. 70% of the surface of the Earth is hydrosphere. So dun papasok yung sagot na hydrosphere ang sagot kasi mas covered niya yung 70% ng Earth. Okay? So sa 100% percentage ng water, 97.2% ng water ay makikita natin sa ocean. So ocean waters are not um, potable. Hindi ito pwedeng inumin. Why is it not allowed to be consumed? Bakit hindi siya pwedeng inumin? Una, it's salty because it's a salt water. And second, kapag kasi nagpa-process ka ng water, hindi lang naman salinity ang tinitingnan o yung pagkaalat. Tinitingnan din ito yung pH, which is the safe pH na pwede mong inumin. And at the same time, the microorganisms present, the total dissolved solids, the turbidity must also be considered. So, ocean is not entirely safe to be consumed, no? So, salt water can be cleansed by the process known as desalination. So, desalination is removing the salt. Pero pag na-desalinate mo na yon, it doesn't mean na pwede mo nang inumin. Madami pang factors na pwedeng gawin bago mo mainom yung water galing sa dagat. No? Kasi kailangan mo pang siguraduhin na yung filtration process mo safe and matanggal mo yung mga microorganisms na meron na present doon. Usually, ang ginagawa ng mga water companies, they add chlorine in order to kill these microorganisms and then process it again para pwede itong inumin. Okay, so kung 97.2% of Earth, approximately, ng water ng Earth ay nasa ocean, ang 2.8% naman, yun ang fresh water. Pero, yung 2.8 na yon, 0.8% lang ang pwede nating inumin. Bakit? Nasaan yung 2%? The 2% is frozen. The 2%, the 2.8% fresh water is actually divided into glacier caps or the ice caps, yung mga naka-freeze doon sa North Pole and South Pole. That's the 2.15%. The groundwater or the water under the surface of the earth, ang tawag din doon ay water table. Yung pag nanonood kayo ng mga movies, naghuhukay ng lupa para may makuhang maiinom na tubig. Yun yung tinatawag na groundwater or water table. That's 0.62% approximately. And ang pwede mo lang talagang inumin is the surface water. Yung surface water is 0.03. Pero itong surface water na to, nakakalat pa to lalo. Itong 0.03% na to, 0.17% are found in lakes, 0.005% is found in soil, 0.001 is found in the atmosphere. O ano tong atmosphere? Ito yung clouds natin. Ito yung humidity, pag may humidity, no? This refers to the water vapor. And then yung 0.0001%, yun naman ay yung nasa streams natin. So, previous percentage referred to all world water, but it can be adjusted to reflected percentage. So based in 100 scale, ito yung distribution niya. Okay? So as you can see, for potable water to, for drinkable water, ice and snow, 24.1 million cubic kilometers, or the 68.7% are frozen at the ice caps. Naka-freeze siya sa ice caps sa North Pole and South Pole. Uh, Rivers, 0.006. That also includes the um, streams. In 100% scale to, kasi ito in 0.03 scale. In 100% scale, ito yung distribution. Wetlands, 0.03%. Soil, moisture, 0.05%. Lakes, 0.26%. Fresh water. Itong fresh water na to, kaso nasa ilalim ng lupa, groundwater, this is 30.7%, and permafrost. Pero ang maganda sa groundwater kasi, example, if you go to forest, pagpunta kayo sa bundok, groundwater are somehow also released in the what they call this, bukal, no? Sometimes, most of the times, doon talaga nanggagaling yung fresh water, galing sa groundwater ng forest, and then it releases the groundwater or the water table, it releases the tubig na nasa mga bukal. So of course, no, the water cycle, the very famous water cycle, tinuro na to nung elementary pa tayo, nung bata pa tayo, no, that water constantly moves inside our planet. It transfers to the ocean, it goes to the atmosphere, and uulan, no? The process is still the same, hindi nagbago. It's still evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and runoff or sublimation, no? And of course, meron din yung from plants to the atmosphere called the transpiration. And this just shows also that the water inside our planet cannot escape in a large scale. Example, magdadala ng tubig yung mga astronaut natin, they can only bring a certain amount, but it cannot escape in a large scale. Kagaya nung lecture natin before, that Earth is a system that does not allow the entrance or escape of the organisms or the water, example, in a large scale. So, interaction naman sa hydrosphere. So, what are the interactions in the hydrosphere? Um, Atmosphere, water is transferred between hydrosphere and biosphere by evaporation and precipitation. Energy is also exchanged in this process. So, water is transferred between hydrosphere and biosphere by evaporation. Of course, kapag yung tubig uh, is heated, it will definitely evaporate, and then it will condensate, will form a cloud, and then precipitate. Pag umulan ito, it would definitely water the plants. No? It will water the plants. And then sa biosphere naman, of course, we all know that water is very necessary sa mga plant and sa transport ng nutrients sa mga plant from the stem, from the roots, no, going up to the stem, the xylem and phloem transfer of nutrients all across the body of the plant. And geosphere. So geosphere naman, water is primary agent for the chemical and mechanical breakdown. Example na nabanggit ko kanina is, nabanggit ko din kanina ito sa geosphere, is that nagkakaroon ng landslide, nagkakaroon ng erosions because of mechanical weathering brought by water. So we're already done with the geosphere, no, that the earth, the solid earth, the hydrosphere, the water, and then the atmosphere. Okay? So now let's go to atmosphere. So atmosphere naman is the uh, air system on our planet, also referred as the blanket of our planet. So una, no, how our atmosphere evolved. The Earth's atmosphere did not support life before. It only contained gases such as methane and ammonia, and there was a very little amount of oxygen. Methane is flammable. It's a flammable gas, just like oxygen. Example, the one of the moons of Saturn called Titan. Ito ay moon na punong-puno ng methane. They say that it's a pool of fart, dagat ng utot because of the methane. Okay? And ammonia is also dangerous. If you remember, just August 4, nagkaroon ng explosion sa Beirut sa Lebanon caused by the ammonium nitrate. No, pero of course, may precursor pa rin, and then yun yung red smoke, the N N2, the formation of N2. And it's also very volatile. But madali din itong interact with other reactants to form explosion. So and technically, atmosphere during the first period was really did not really support the life. And then over time, gases were added to the atmosphere by volcanic eruptions and as a result of chemical reactions due to sunlight. And then nagkaroon na ng formation of ozone layer. Ozone layer is O3. O3 meaning three oxygens bonded together, three oxygen atoms bonded together to block the ultraviolet rays of the sun. So if you are asked, ang ang ozone layer ba ay nabubutas? The answer is no. Pero ozone layer is depleting. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Numinipis ang ozone layer. So the term that we use is not butas ang ozone layer, but the term we use is the ozone depletion. There are certain areas where the ozone layer is highly depleted. Number 4, formation of ozone layer also allowed microorganisms such as blue-green algae to appear on Earth. They take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, so the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere steadily increased. Okay, stromatolites were some of the Earth's early organisms used photosynthesis to convert carbon dioxide into oxygen, and they still exist today and have survived the five mass extinctions. Okay. So, because of this, no, our atmosphere changes. Nagbabago po kasi talaga ang state ng atmosphere natin. Unlike geosphere is fixed. Ang nagbabago lang naman talaga is si crust, si lithosphere, no, because of the movement. But the ang hydrosphere din, water, the composition of water is the same kahit nasa interaction, may interaction ito sa atmosphere or may interaction sa geosphere, the composition of water is still the same, that's still H2O. Pero, no, ang atmosphere natin, ang composition ng atmosphere natin nagbabago because as I have mentioned a while ago, that the interactions and the processes uh, on Earth happens, no, but this majorly happens in the atmosphere. So, ngayon, pag tinanong kayo what are the five most ano tawag dun? Dominant elements in our atmosphere, the answer will be nitrogen is the highest, second is the oxygen, third is argon, fourth is carbon dioxide, and number five is trace gases. Trace gases. Those other elements that are uh, in gaseous form. So the question is, why nitrogen? Eh di ba, sir, mas kailangan natin ng oxygen para mabuhay. Bakit nitrogen ang nandyan? Una, nitrogen is, ang sagot kasi dyan, unang sagot natin dyan will be, unang tanong ay bakit mas dominant ang oxygen kaysa sa nitrogen? The answer there is um, nitrogen is more difficult to break than oxygen. The bonds between nitrogen is more difficult to break compared to oxygen. Kasi ang nitrogen gas, which is N2, is triply bonded. Pero ang oxygen, O2, is bonded using double bonds. No? So it can easily be broken. Pero ang nitrogen gas, it cannot be easily be broken. Madali lang itong i-break if ang isa sa mga indications na nabe-break ang nitrogen gas, example, umulan, malakas, kumidlat ng kumidlat. Maghintay kayo ng mga 1 day or 2 days, magugulat ka na lang may mushroom na doon sa, if you are from the province, may mushroom na. Ibig sabihin, nagkaroon ng breakdown of nitrogen in environmental chemistry. Ganon yung isa sa mga indications ng nitrogen ay na-breakdown para maging solid form sa ground. No? So it causes the formation of the mushrooms. So it's difficult. And second, as I have mentioned a while ago, oxygen is more flammable than nitrogen. Kasi nga, mas madaling i-break ang oxygen. So, if oxygen is higher in the atmosphere, mas mabilis mag-cause ng fire. Bakit? Sa combustion reaction or called the formation of fire, si oxygen ang the primary components of the triangle of fire is heat, fuel, and oxygen. So if oxygen is more dominant in our atmosphere, konting cause lang ng friction, konting cause lang ng heat, or konting fuel lang, konting spark, the fire will definitely happen. That's also one of the reasons kung bakit nagkakaroon ng forest fire. Bakit nagkakaroon ng forest fire? Bukod sa mainit, of course, oxygen is rich in forest. Bakit rich? Again, forests are made up of trees, composed of trees, plants. So, trees consume carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. Since there is a large amount of oxygen sa mga forest, no, kaya kapag nagkaroon ng forest fire, mahirap itong patayin. Okay? So these are one of the issues why it was really difficult to stop the burning sa Amazon forest. So bakit mahirap patayin yung apoy sa Amazon forest? We know that it's a wetland, no? Mahirap itong patayin kasi a lot of its area are wet. It's because of the present oxygen. Remember, 20% of the oxygen of our planet comes from Amazon forest. 'Di ba nga ang tawag pa dito ay the lungs of the planet Earth. Okay? So that's why the forest fire in Amazon was difficult to put off because of the rich oxygen level doon sa area na yon. Okay? And then third, of course, is argon and then carbon dioxide and other trace gases. So again, pag tinanong what are the composition of the atmosphere, the major compositions are the nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, and trace gases. So Earth, kung ang Earth ay may layers of Earth, ang atmosphere meron din pong layer. So the first layer is troposphere, followed by stratosphere, followed by mesosphere, thermosphere, and there's the fifth one, actually the exosphere. So ito yon. So the basis of the layers are the changing in temperature. As you move up through the troposphere, the temperature decreases. As you move up through the stratosphere, the temperature increases. As you move through the mesosphere, the temperature decreases. As you move up through the thermosphere, the temperature increases. So let's go back here. Mas madali dito. Troposphere. Tayo ay nasa troposphere. If you go up, up to the altitude, the temperature decreases. The temperature decreases, and then pag umakyat ka naman papunta sa stratosphere, the temperature increases. Pag umakyat ka sa mesosphere, the temperature decreases. Umakyat ka ulit, temperature increases. When you exceed that, actually it goes higher and hotter and hotter because you go already out of the atmosphere. So, question, ano naman tawag dun sa turning point ng temperature or sa transition ng sphere, ng atmosphere? The first one is the troposphere. Of course, it passes to the tropopause, stratosphere, and then stratopause, and then mesosphere, mesopause, and then thermosphere, thermopause, and then exosphere. And then after the exosphere, universe na. Ano na? Space na. Okay? So ito lang din 'yon. Okay. So troposphere contains the convection currents created by the sun's heat which cause most of our weather. So the weather happens in the troposphere. Sa troposphere lang din po lumilipad ang ating eroplano. Ang highest peak ng planet Earth, which is the Mount Everest, is still found at the troposphere. Stratosphere contains the ozone layer. Nandun ang ozone layer. It prevents the entrance of UV rays, at least those that causes cancer rays, and of course stops us from burning. Mesosphere, dito nag-uumpisa na, dito nasusunog yung mga meteors in case na kapag may meteor na tatama dito sa ating planeta. Thermosphere divided into two actually. Ang thermosphere are called the ionosphere and exosphere. So the thermosphere, in other books, after ng thermosphere, exosphere. But in our discussion, the thermosphere is actually subdivided into two, the ionosphere and the exosphere. So the ionosphere is lower thermosphere. Exosphere is the upper thermosphere. It contains electrically charged particles due to the absorption of ultraviolet radiation and X-rays that are given off by the sun. Dito din nangyayari yung aurora borealis and aurora australis. And dito din nangyayari yung radio wave travels easily. At nandito din po yung mga satellites natin sa thermosphere sa part ng exosphere. The air is extremely thin. Satellites travel here because there is very little friction with the air. Okay, so those are the uh, four layers, and then the fourth has two sublayers: the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere. Thermosphere can be ionosphere, and then the exosphere. So aurora borealis in the glow of the night produced in the upper atmosphere by ionized particle from the solar wind interaction with the Earth's magnetic field. If you remember your discussion um, in the basic science concepts, no, meron tayong tinatawag na electromagnetic waves. Okay. So part ng electromagnetic waves, you'd be able to identify the visible light, no, because of the magnetic field na meron ang North Pole and South Pole. So Aurora Borealis happens in North Pole, Aurora Australis happens in South Pole. So also mahalaga din na alam natin kung ano nga ba yung behavior ng air when it comes to heat. When it comes to, when it comes to heat, no? So that is the um, a hot air goes up, cool air goes down. So, kagaya na nabanggit ko nung nakaraan sa mga compounds, no, if it's cooler, the air goes down. It's hotter, the air goes up. So, yun din yung hot air balloon, no? That's the principle of hot air balloon. Okay, so atmosphere interactions with other Earth system components. Una, the hydrosphere, the gases of the atmosphere readily exchange with those dissolved with water bodies. Meron tayong paano nakakahinga yung mga fishes sa water because they consume dissolved oxygen. So water has dissolved oxygen and dissolved carbon dioxide. Meron din yon. And of course, dissolved other compounds in the atmosphere. So atmosphere interaction with hydrosphere. Example, the acidic water. Acidic water kapag nagkaroon ng um, volcanic eruption, nagkakaroon yan ng release ng carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide, and then will definitely turn to uh, if it participates in the precipitation pag umulan, no, it carries the acid with them. It's either the sulfuric acid of the sulfur dioxide and the carbonic acid. Okay? Next is the biosphere. Of course, atmosphere, nandun ang oxygen, relevant sa ating sa paghinga ng mga animals and human beings. And then carbon dioxide naman relevant for plants for their hypothesis. Geosphere, gases in the atmosphere reacts with water to produce weak acid that aid in the breakdown of the rocks. So interaction of systems, you have hurricane sweeps across the ocean, hydrosphere, onto the land, geosphere, damaging the dwellings of the earth, biosphere, who live along the coast. So yan. And then that's the last interaction. So I hope you realize the interaction of the three spheres, the geosphere, the hydrosphere, and the atmosphere. No? So all these work together for the biosphere. They participate largely in the biosphere. So, should you have any questions or clarification, please feel free to email me or comment on the lecture. Bye.